Hello, this is for PSD, um, the Tuesday and Thursday fall 2015 final review. And hope you stay with me, but it's recorded, so you can always rewind when you want to, if you need to. So I'm gonna go through these bullet points um, pretty quickly for things I've already covered. If you've already heard some of this, feel free to fast forward. If it's your first time watching, you can fast forward towards the end where I talk about um, the tuition, fees, books, relationships, study habits, resumes, interviews, stress management, and coping skills. So, with that being said, I'll begin. Okay, so we have the days of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, MTWRF. That's on your schedules. Course number. Um, what is the first, the last digit mean? The last digit of the course number, for example, if it's 1114, what's special about that is the 4. You probably need to ask if you need to enroll in another class, like is it a lab attached to it or something else, because the last digit tells you how many hours a week you're supposed to meet for that class. So if it's a 3 hour class, like 1113, then you will meet either 3 days a week for 1 hour each, or 2 days a week for an hour and a half. Um, but realistically, it's an hour and 15 each time. So they give you time to go to your next class. So course numbers. You also have the course numbers for the second level, like physics 1, physics 2, uh, chemistry 1, chemistry 2, so on and so forth. If there's a 1 and a 2, you need to make sure that it is the proper second course, meaning that some universities you have things for geared to science is geared towards engineering, and some science is geared towards medical. And so you don't want to be supposed to be in a medical path and then get enrolled in the engineering course. All right. Um, so make sure you have the second level courses, you keep that straight. um, excuse me, I have allergy issues. Now, level, we are dealing with words, not just numbers. We're dealing with freshman is 1, sophomore is 2, junior is 3, senior is 4, 5, and 6 are usually graduate level, doctoral level courses. And you are not to be enrolled in a class. For example, if you're a freshman, you should not be taking a 3,000 level course, a junior level course. if So you need to make sure with your advisor you're not putting that, because after the drop period, then you will be stuck paying for that course. There is people talk. There's your grade versus your classification, status, or year. We do not say grade in college. It's your classification. What classification are you? What year are you? What's your status? And that answer would be freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, or graduate, master's, doctoral, so on and so forth. We're not saying grades. We stop with grades at 12 or 12th. There's no 13th and 14th. I heard that freshmen are doing that, saying that. Part-time student, you for fall, it's 12 hours of enrollment in order to get your financial aid. Remember, if you drop below that 12 hours for fall and spring, then the government's going to come looking for their money. Whoever's going to come looking for their money, because you're no longer a full-time student. Summer is 6 hours, makes you full-time. For part-time, it's half of that. Fall and spring is 6. Summer is 3. Let's see. Plans of study. Plans of study, their purpose. It also could be called degree sheets, but you need to keep those because that's what is going to guide you for the next 4 years, whatever is needed for you to graduate. But that's the classes. You do not get a new degree sheet every year. You get a degree sheet if you change majors. If you're a junior and you decide to change majors, then you will lose more than likely classes towards that new degree. You have to get a degree sheet for the year that you actually came into that degree or that major. Okay. Um, let's see, eyes. And back to let's keep going with that, but plan a study. GPA. Plan to study will have a GPA requirement to graduate. GPA requirement might be broken out into what your GPA has to be for your major classes, or what your GPA has to be cumulative, which is every course you've ever taken in college um, averaged together, and that gets your cumulative GPA. For extra schooling like medical schools, PT schools, they will differentiate between your science classes, GPA, and other courses. They may separate that out. So you need to read your plans of study, all of the fine print, everything. Um, ADA, that's Americans with Disabilities Act. That is, there's no special ed at the collegiate level, and it can't be retroactive. If you don't go into the ADA office at your school and say, get tested or whatever needs to happen, do that process, you cannot go back. It's not retroactive. You cannot take a midterm, for example, and then do badly on it, then go to the ADA office and get your accommodations that you have given, and then go back and take that midterm again with those accommodations. It doesn't work like that. So the beginning of every semester, you need to go to that office and make sure you have your letter up to date. You take that to all your professors. You give them a copy of that letter of your accommodations, and you move on from there. It's nothing to be ashamed of or anything like that. ADA is also in place if you, for example, break your arm and you're right-handed and you can't write, you will need some accommodation. So even if it's something that's temporary, you need to make sure that that gets done as soon as possible. Eyes. When do you get an eye, which stands for incomplete, and who can give it? That's going to be on the exam. Eyes, pause your classwork. So if you happen to miss a big assignment or a small block of time for a legitimate reason as seen fit by your professor or whatnot, then you probably have to bring proof of that incident, but you can get an I in the course, and then you have a year to meet those requirements that you didn't meet to finish out the course and get a letter grade, full grade. And that's given by the professor. Your AW, administrative withdrawal, on the form it says that they can be given administrative withdrawals can be given due to attendance, discipline, and financial reasons. So just because you are grown, you cannot just treat a professor or talk to a professor any way you wish and say, well, I'm paying for this, so I can treat you however. That should be known. Then who gives it? It's administrator. It's a professor. It does not hurt your GPA, which you should be protective of anyway. You need to be trying to graduate with a 3-point something, not a 2 something. W is for withdrawal. Need to know the deadlines for withdrawals from classes. Sometimes you can withdraw and get 100% of your money back, and then there's a date for that. Other time, and then you can sometimes withdraw by another date in the semester and get half your money back. And then after a third date, you can't get any of your money back if you withdraw. But the W, it's no credit at all, okay? And it doesn't affect your GPA, I don't believe. But next thing, degrees offered. You have associate's degree that exists. You have a bachelor's degree, master's, and doctorate degree. You do not have to have an associate's degree in order to get a bachelor's degree. You do not have to have a master's degree all the time to get a doctoral degree. You need to read the program that you're getting into and wanting to get into. You need to read that now so you know what pathway you need to take to plan out your life academically. Then you have bachelor's degree is required to get a master's in most cases. There are some programs now that are master's level. Very, very few, but you go to college and you just get a master's. You're there for 5 years and you get your master's. You kind of skip the bachelor's. It's kind of included. But you graduate with a master's degree. Right now, athletic training is doing that in some programs. Then we have how the schools are organized. You have the president of the university. Then you have vice presidents. You have multiple vice presidents with different duties. Then you have deans, which are over the colleges or schools. Some universities call their sub sub institutions. They call them schools. Some call them colleges. For example, it could be College of Education or School of Education. Um, so the deans are over those schools. Langston calls them schools. So we have Langston University. Then you have School of Education, Behavioral Sciences, School of Nursing, School of um, Business, okay, or School of Arts and Sciences. I'm sorry, School of Arts and Sciences. So it's just different schools that are lined out, which we lined them all out in class. Then you have deans of those schools. So underneath the deans, you have multiple department heads that are more detail oriented in the different majors involved. Then under department heads, you have professors. Department heads can also be professors, but that's the, the gist of the college breakdown. All of your majors and minors are housed in those different schools. Okay, so it's important that you know who your dean is. It's important that you know who your department head is because as a freshman, you need guidance on what you need to be doing as a freshman to build your resume and things of that nature to go forward. So you need to meet your deans and department heads as soon as possible. Okay, so we have that covered. Money. All right, let's go tuition and fees and then money. So tuition, know what that is, the definition, the cost of your per credit hour. That's what tuition is. Fees pay for things, services offered to the student, counseling, computer labs, tutoring. Um, Books are of course separate. You can get things online. You can get books from all kind of places and sources. So you need to look into that. But you need to have your books. You also need to look at keeping your books if it's something that's guided towards your major or it's something that's a weakness for you, like math. You might keep the college algebra book if you need to take, for example, in education, you need to take the OGET and it has math on it. And so you might want to keep the college algebra book, even though you might not be taking the OGET for another year or so, or 6 months or 3 months. Now let's go to money in general. When you get your financial aid reimbursement, the first thing you need to do is go to the registrar's office. I'm sorry, the business office, and you need to pay any bill that you have and get a receipt. Get any signatures you might need for verification. But if you get a zero balance, you need to have a receipt for what you owe. Well, period, you need to get your receipt every time, even if you're making payments. So do not go out and be frivolous. When you get scholarship money or financial aid package, remember that's going to be divided into two because you have a fall semester and you have a spring semester. So you're not going to get that lump sum total. It's going to be divided by two. So always pay your bill first. You cannot enroll the next semester if you have a bill. That's not just a Langston thing. That's a university thing. They ensure that they get their money. So it makes perfect sense. So you need to be responsible. Pay your bill first. Then look at how you're going to get home for holidays. Or emergencies, and then how are you going to pay your day-to-day expenses of feeding yourself, clothing yourself, medical things. I don't care if it's allergy medicine, which is we're in Oklahoma, we have to think about that. Your car maintenance, your car tires, oil changes, gas, things like that, and that's where creating a budget comes into play. So entertainment is last on that list. When you get money, it's not up at the top. Sometimes students get that backwards. It's not about you didn't come to college so you could be flashy. You came to college so you can get an education and get a career so you could then buy what you want and quote unquote be flashy. But you shouldn't be balling in college. That money is for business reasons first. Sometimes family, you have the check sent home. Sometimes they do things that aren't right. They might forge signatures, deposit the checks, or steal the money, basically. It does happen. So you need to have your money sent and find out what it takes, who you need to talk to have your money sent, your reimbursement given to you, whether it's direct deposit, you need to open up an account, or it's a paper check, whatever. You need to get that straight because families sometimes don't do right when they have a check in their hand for thousands of dollars. As a freshman, you are a target. because you are a freshman. You're new to college, you're green, and the beauty is you think that you're grown and you're ready for so many things, and you're not. Those juniors and seniors, sometimes, of course, they know that, males and females. So you have a target on your back. You need to understand that and wise up to the game. Um, the next topic is relationships. Speaking of which, so we have relationships. Relationships are built on expectations. Why do I say that? Why do I have you testing on that? Is because, as I stated in class, you come in and you have expectation and you know how you were raised and you might have had things done for you. Parents always provided for you. They paid your car insurance, they paid your car note, your cell phone bill. You didn't have to take very much responsibility. Other people, you had to kind of fend for yourself, raise yourself. You're very self sufficient. And when the two of you get together, you have very different expectations of each other. I don't care if you're male or female. So that needs to be discussed. A lot of times you all get involved in intimacy and intimate relationships and acts, and um, that's not a glue that should hold you. Um, Hopefully, other things don't come along like kids and things before these expectations are talked about and discussed. But a lot of times we put the cart before the horse. Look at Maslow, look at your needs. It's a time for you to learn about yourself and learn how to meet your needs, your physiologic needs, then your safety and security. Remember, safety and security is not only physical, it's emotional safety, mental safety, security. So things like locking your doors, having a mace on your keychain, um, talking, or if you're walking across campus at night, talking to somebody on a phone so they know where you're at, what you're doing, not drinking and driving, being responsible, um, things like that may help your physical safety. But mentally, sometimes people forget about that. So they get involved in activities and around people that they're not really used to being around. Um, and some grew up around a certain group of people and they're used to being around people that do drugs or drink, or that's how they have fun and relax. But now they need to start changing because of how they hire people now, the testing that they do for uh, possible employees. So, um, physical safety. You also need to know all the pyramids, all the levels of the pyramid for Maslow. With females, physical safety, mental safety. Please, females, quit putting yourself in the place of a male. You are not a male. Men handle conflict differently than women. Men um, usually go too physical. So do not pick at them and mess with them and what they won't do and will do, and they're this and they're that, calling them names and all that. That's not cute. That's not mature. That's petty. And whatever happens to you happens to you. But don't don't instigate. Okay, you got to take care of your own safety, and part of that is not putting yourself in the place of a man. Um, there is help on campus. I don't know if you all knew about it, but there's counseling services on campus. So if you have a loss or death, told you that in college things are going to change. You're going to have to decide if you're going to stay or you're going to go when life happens. While you're in college, people will pass away. Some of those people will be close to you: parents, grandparents, cousins, siblings. excuse, excuse me. Stuff is going to happen. But you have to decide if you're going to stay the course or not. Um, and if that death or that loss, or that loss of a job, whatever that situation is back home, as you can't always fix what's back home, and you have to be honest in the fact of a lot of the times the situation that happened back home are either out of your control, such as a diagnosis, or the person was doing something they had no business, or has a habit, a drug habit, a drinking habit, a gambling habit, whatever the case, they have a habit, and you're not going to save them. Okay, a person can only be saved if they want to be saved. You running home, it's not going to save them. You'll look up and you'll be old. You'll be in your mid 20s, late 20s, whatever, and you started out a journey at 18, and you have not come close to reaching your career goal, and you're already in your mid to late 20s. So that's what I meant by older. So there is help on campus, just so you know. And study habits. Now on to study habits. You need to learn how you learn, first of all. So is it Are you auditory, visual, kinesthetic? Do you have to do it? That's kinesthetic. Can you just see it being done? Visual. Can you hear it and do it? Follow the directions. A lot of you do not know how you learn. We have to, as professors, are supposed to get you to think critically and get you ready for the real world. We're supposed to be able to take our textbooks in our field, our respective fields, and bring it to life to make it applicable to you. But you are supposed to do the groundwork of reading the text, reading the chapters, buying the books, doing the assignments, so that when we come together in class, we can help you bring that to life. You'll have questions to add to discussions or questions to get answered, period. You're supposed to be seeking knowledge. We're not supposed to be spoon feeding you. We're not supposed to be giving you regurgitation. Some things are regurgitation. You need to learn things in your career field, such as the terminology in your career field. And it's just regurgitation, different acronyms and things like that, definitions. But you need to know how to think critically and solve problems. I don't care what field you're going into. So with that being the case, if you're not an independent learner and thinker, and you get frustrated because we're not spoon feeding you, then welcome to college. That's what separates a college graduate from a non-college graduate, because you have to be motivated to learn for yourself. You have to want to learn and better yourself. We will not spoon feed you. We will not give you all the answers. And we will not make tests that are simply just regurgitation tests where you went home and did some memorization and came back and spit it up to us. So some of you study with music. Your study habits will change when you come to college, the way you do it. Sometimes you have to write things over and over again. Sometimes you have to highlight. Sometimes you have to record lectures or read things over and over. Talk to yourself. Talk to other people. You should be having intellectual conversations anyway because you're in college. You should talk about what was discussed in class and get opinions about it and have those discussions. It shouldn't just be nonsense. It's not going to help you get anywhere. So, and gossip and things of that nature. All right. You might not be able to listen to music when you study. You might not be able to have a TV on. You might need to be totally quiet when you study. This is finals. This is getting ready for finals. I want you to do well on your finals, but you can't study the way you did in high school. A lot of you can't, and a lot of you don't realize that you're not the best at retaining information. You're not the best at comprehending information. Even though you can read, you're not the best at comprehending information and coming up with questions about new information or from new information. But that doesn't mean, like I said, that you're dumb or anything like that. A college student asks questions. A college student is inquisitive and can teach themselves some things. And they're responsible. Resumes. You have the categories that I gave you in class. Let's see. Don't put your home address on there. People are doing identity theft. I'm just scratching me. People are doing identity theft. That's why you don't put your address on there. And plus, you all have changing addresses all the time. I told you about government jobs. Sometimes they go back 7 years at minimum. And you have to have all of your addresses, complete addresses, and any landlords that you might have had or building supervisors that you might have had. So you also need to have all your jobs and complete addresses and your supervisors' names. So to fill out those government jobs, I'm just giving you a heads up about it. I didn't know about it until I got a government job. They do background checks. They're going to do drug tests should you get hired or be in a hiring process. You're going to have access to a computer, Wi-Fi, and a printer, because now they're making you print out your own information to be uploaded or being turned back in. When you go to, they're going to want transcripts once you graduate, or maybe in between time, to prove that you are doing what you say you're doing, or you did achieve the degree that you are saying on that resume that you earned. And the degree will read degree earned, and it'll be a different reading than just your regular transcript. So, background checks, interviews. They're doing wellness exams for insurance. Remember, I told you they don't like smokers. If you smoke, you need to get rid of that habit now. You're going to pay more for insurance because you are a bigger liability. And that just is what it is. As far as lung issues, sicknesses, time off of work, during work, breaks and things like that. That's just the way it is. So don't start a habit that it's going to hurt you in the end, and you're going to have to stop. Um, Interviewing, you want to be there 15 minutes early. You want to make sure you have the address and phone number of where you're going. You may assume you're interviewing one spot and you're not interviewing at that place. You want to have Kleenex. Some of you will be sweaty. You might sneeze. Things happen. You don't want to be self-conscious about sweat or, you know, anything in your nose. You also want to, what else is there? You also want to have a portfolio. You want a hard copy of your resume and some paper in that portfolio. That's like a leather. It's not a leather. It's not a folder, but it's like a leather folder. It closes and opens like a folder, but it's leather. Or you get my drift. That's a portfolio. You need to carry that with you to the interview. You take notes during the interview. You ask a question at the end of the interview. They're going to ask you some basic things at first, like tell me a little bit about yourself. So be ready to answer that with hobbies and maybe your degree or maybe your major if you haven't gotten a degree. And you need to know whether that degree is a bachelor's of arts or bachelor's of science or, those details. And your hobbies, any work experience you might have had recently, those kind of things. Be ready to talk about yourself in a positive way, sell yourself. Then they're going to ask you about conflict resolution. Is there a time you have handled conflict? They might give you a scenario that you have to handle conflict in and answer that type of question. And they also will do strengths and weaknesses. So you need to be able to frame your weaknesses into a positive way and flip it. I had a student that said that his weakness was he didn't like to be on other people's time because he didn't like to be late. Really, if you think about it, he didn't even give a weakness. It's just how he worded it, and it was beautiful. So that's how you can flip some weaknesses. You don't want to just say you have a weakness and not say how you're working on changing it. If you give something else as a weakness, that's a real weakness. Employers are looking at liability. They're looking at your social media. They will go back. They have hackers that, I'm going to say hackers, I don't know what they're really called, but they go back and they research and get on your Facebook pages, Twitters, Instagram, social media, and they see what you post. So if you're posting in college, you're posting nude pictures, you're posting risque pictures, you posting pictures of you smoking, doing drugs, things of that nature, they will find it. And that is grounds enough for them not to hire you. Okay, so that does exist. That's real. I do know someone that does that for a living for his company. The other thing is tattoos. A lot of y'all are in college. You're on your own. You're going to get tattoos. Do not get tattoos you cannot cover up. Do not get tattoos on your neck. Do not get tattoos behind your ear. Do not remember that people interviewing you or hiring you are more than likely not of your generation. And if they are of your generation, that means they are a go-getter, an outgoing person, a person that seeks knowledge. They try to learn and they have take a lot of initiative. So that being the case, they may be your age or in your decade age range, but they're not the same mindset as you may be. So think about that. Do not get a tattoo that you cannot cover up easily. All right. So there should be nothing on your forearm, stuff coming down off your wrist. You have to be careful with that. So you've been warned. Piercings are the same way. Noses, eyebrows, tongues, lips, the big gauges. So it is what it is. You've been warned about that. Now, don't come in smelling like smoke. If you have developed smoking as your coping mechanism, one of your coping, things that you turn to, then I'm sorry for you. Everybody can smell it. They know it smells. It's in your hair. It's in your clothes. Even if you sit in your car and you haven't even smoked on the way there, it's in your car, so it's going to get into your clothes. Don't try to hide it with a lot of cologne and things of that nature. So that's about it right now with interviews. Oh, sorry. Don't use slang. Practice talking. Practice talking now using proper subject-verb agreement. What I mean by now is with your peers. How you text. You all are texting and using misspelling words and using different abbreviations. And when it comes to your writing, it's hurting everyone's writing and written communication skills. You have to send an email or you send a text. Now, some companies are letting you text your boss. If you're sending text messages and you still are not knowing how to spell words and using correct grammar, it's a bad look. It looks bad on you. So we need to tighten up. There's a time for social and there's a time for professional. We need to improve on our professional. And the way you dress, ladies, we're not showing all of our curves. Sometimes you have curves you can't hide. It's not a matter of necessarily hiding it, but tone it down. Um, the slip still exists. You should buy one. They do sell them at some stores, and you need to wear closed-toed shoes. I know we have a lot of options as women. You need to wear closed-toed shoes. You need to wear, skirts that come to your knees or past your knees. Not once again, we're not accentuating all the curves. Up top, cleavage. There are camisoles and different things you need to wear underneath, and we're not showing our bras and the prints and all that stuff on the bras and lines, panty lines, and things that's not what you walk to an interview with. Your suits and things, you all need to build your wardrobe while you're in college. So you have a professional wardrobe, you have a party wardrobe, casual wardrobe, every day, maybe athletic. You need to diversify. You need to buy dress clothes, dress shoes. You can get those very cheaply, actually, men and women. But you're not wearing open-toed shoes, women. You're wearing simple earrings, studs, not big hoops and attention-getting things. You're wearing natural-looking makeup um, and lip glosses, lipsticks, natural look. Um, Remember what I said earlier about who's interviewing you and who's hiring. What generation are they from? What age are they from? What population are you serving in that job, in that setting? So that's about it with the interviews. Now we're going with stress management. Coping skills is the last thing. Stress management, we have negative coping skills and things that are positive. So we're going to go with the positive. That could be reading, journaling, running, exercising, talking to trusted friends. Not everyone you can trust, but trusted friends or relatives. Um, Sleeping so your brain can process what's going on. If you're going through a stressful time, you need to get sleep. You're studying, finals week is coming, you're studying, you need to get sleep. You need to factor that in. If you do not have sleep, your brain cannot transfer things from short-term memory to long-term memory. And that whole critical thinking is going to be hard to do because I know a lot of you are used to just regurgitation. So when it comes to critical thinking on an exam, and a lot of the exams, as they should be, are cumulative. So you're learning, taking everything from August all the way till December and getting tested on it. So cramming is should not be your number one option. But I digress. So you have journaling, reading, talking to trusted people, exercising, um, spiritual means, of course, prayer, meditation. Um, those are your positive coping skills. I like to watch a comedy myself and laugh. So you might do the same. You might like to do the same. Anything with smoking, I'm totally against it. So no with the smoking. Then there's any type of tobacco use, any type of drug use, because when you get older, you can't rely on it. So when you get into the job field, when you get stressed, you're going to want to have that vice. And now with all the drug testing, and they are allowed to do random drug testing after you get the job. So, and if you refuse all that stuff, you're fired instantly. So don't pick up a habit that a coping mechanism you can't use for the rest of your life. Okay. Sex. Some of my students, when I said sex is a negative, um, it was because they made a face, they made a sound. The reason I said I put sex in that category is because um, I had you, remember we had this discussion in class, and some of you said the ladies said that they might be embarrassed about going to the store and buying condoms. And I said, if you're embarrassed about going to the store and buying condoms, then you definitely shouldn't be having sex because um, that is your most vulnerable time. All the positions involved, the smells, the sounds, that is pretty involved. So if you can do all that, but not go to a store and check out with condoms, then you probably shouldn't be having sex. And if you can't aren't mature enough to get on any type of birth control, if you know you're not ready to have kids, any type of contraceptive other than a condom, in addition to using a condom, because there's STDs, you don't need to be having sex. If you can't have a conversation with your partner about sex without laughing and feeling awkward, you're not ready to have sex anyway. So a lot of you all come to college and you might not be virgins. But I will say this: it's a chance for you to change, a chance for you to learn about yourselves, and you need to take advantage of that. So if you were getting it on in high school, you can come to college and change. You can change all that. You can change it anytime, actually. Um, but hearing that embarrassment to buy condoms, you're not ready for sexual activity then. So that was the is the PSD test review, final review. I hope you enjoyed it. You can call me with questions, and your final will be well, it's an email when your final will be. I've already sent that out a long time ago. All right, thank you.